Promises and penalties in this week's news, right here, right now. Greetings Romy, you're watching WromWrom, the channel sharing the joy of sim racing and a regular news roundup, our weekly sim racing news. Thanks to all those who come here often, especially those who subscribe, and even more, our patrons. My name is Serta and I will be your host for this video. It's not good when people behave like dicks during a race, especially when they are real-life drivers showing disrespect to their fellow drivers. It's worse when their team offers a non-apology, but in the end it all ends well. Well, not for the misbehaving drivers, but, well, we'll tell you the whole story in the news, among many other stories. iRacing found themselves in the middle of a storm this week, partially of their own making. The sim racing world learned about it through a video by sim racing channel Basic Ollie, see the link up there, which showed an iRacing replay showing drivers Zach Schooler, Ethan Welch and James Swindles driving slowly, seemingly on purpose, on the iRacing Spa 24-hour race, blocking attempts by anybody to overtake them and in some cases even causing collisions. After these actions were made public, their team, WromWrom Motorsport, offered what we consider a non-apology, vaguely stating they acknowledge the consequences of the actions and were committed to learning and improving from this experience, with no further explanation of what they were doing and how they were handling the issue, which for up-and-coming driver Zach Schooler could be dire, as he's competing in the Eurocup 3 Formula 3 series within the Palou Motorsport team. But the statement by WromWrom was so vague as to inflame sim racers because it did not seem they or the drivers were taking the issue seriously and just had their PR team whip up some words that sounded important and meant nothing. Especially as in the same press release they stated Zach had handed his logging to somebody else and was not driving himself, which is a breach of the terms and conditions of iRacing as we understand them, or a cheap cop-out depending on how you see it. And while we reached out to iRacing asking for comment, none was forthcoming at the making of the video, which does not look good for iRacing. But we have to give it to them, iRacing has suspended the drivers indefinitely from iRacing, which could mean a permaban, but could not mean that. Note they don't say permanently, just indefinitely, calling the behavior of the drivers completely unacceptable. Questions remain about why WromWrom Motorsport considered such an apology acceptable and why it took iRacing so long to react, especially where were the stewards of iRacing when all of this was happening? Why did they not react already during the race? And nothing has been heard from Palou Motorsport regarding the actions of their driver. According to the Kunos Discord, Assetto Corsa Evo will bring the Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 Club Sport to the sim with a 0.3 release, whenever that one happens. They also tease 8 new cars and 2 circuits for that release, of course, without giving specifics. From one tease to the next, Project Motor Racing have published their DLC roadmap for next year, which, as we already knew, will start with the so-called Group 5 Revival Pack on release day and will continue on Q1 2026 with one DLC that is especially dear to me, the Japanese GT500 pack. As you may very well be aware, because I can't stop gushing about them, I love those Class 1 monsters and I sure will love driving the GT500s. Then on Q2 2026 they expect to drop a so-called GT Legends pack, then Q3 V8 Power Pack, and the year is expected to end on Q4 with an Endurance Racing expansion with GTPs, GTOs and LMP1s, and Le Mans. And just a quick reminder that if you order Project Motor Racing through the link in the description, we'll get a bit of money out of that as it's an affiliate link. After the seemingly badly and hastily prepared Sim Racing Expo in Texas, which ended up being cancelled and which has nothing to do with the Sim Gaming Expo in Chicago, Sim Racing Expo in Dortmund is trying once again, this time in Charlotte, this time in May 2026. Of course, it's too early to say anything more than that. We'll see if second time is the charm for the SRE in the USA. Just in time for the harvest, Euro Truck Simulator 2 drops a farm machinery DLC release. You'll haul 9 different types of machinery across the land and even decorate your truck with some gizmos included in the DLC, which is already available for €5 USD on Steam. 3D-Wrap have released a series of elastomers compatible with 1.5 tons of pedal systems, and with them also a configurator on their webpage, which helps you set the elastomers exactly the way you want them. And then you can go and buy them from 3D-Wrap. Interesting and innovative idea, in line with what they do best for sure, but something different nonetheless. If you didn't watch it, you missed a great race yesterday. 12 hours of Nordschleife endurance racing, collecting donations for Cancer Research UK in the memory of Dean Hyde, fellow sim racer who succumbed to cancer last year. 42 teams over 120 drivers, 2,920 laps driven by all participants, which means a donation of £147 by the organizer, and over 12 hours of fun and banter. But the most important number is 4,308 and 44. In the end, we surpassed the donations of last year and got 4,308 British pound and 44 cents, but that doesn't mean you cannot donate still. We kept the donations page open, and you can either scan the QR on the screen right now or check the description of this video for a link to the donation page. Let's kick cancer in the short and curlies, shall we? The race moved at an incredible pace, with the ERA Highway Patrol winning the GT3 category, 757 Motorsport in the GT4s, and the DGSR GT3 Magnet in the M2s. And a lot of penalty donations being handed around, because this was a pay-to-win, cheating for Cancer Research UK kind of race, where teams and really anybody were allowed to hand over penalties to their opponents by dropping a healthy donation. And they did at the tune of 4,400 seconds in total. Cheating against cancer? I'm all for it. For these ones, I'll allow it and will even give it my blessing. 1,000 thanks to the team of Evolution Racing Academy for organizing everything and setting up. 1,000 thanks to Mike, aka Meodred, who woke up at his Canadian 3 AM and was still commentating 14 hours later, even skipping his beloved pizza, and 1,000 thanks to all participants, many of whom are looking forward to next year's race, because you can bet your short and curlies there's going to be a race next year. If you like what you see, how about supporting us? A like and a comment to tell the almighty algorithm we are worth watching are a good start. Subscribing is even better. And what really helps us grow is if you become a patron, as YouTube's income is tiny for us sim racing channels. Patrons get access to exclusive content and are involved in our decisions. Help us grow with your support. Help us keep spreading the joy of sim racing. Become a patron today. Le Mans Ultimate is gearing up for the 1.0 We're Out of Early Access release, dropping the news that on top of the Aston Martin Valkyrie and the Mercedes-AMG LMGT3 we already knew about, they are releasing the BMW M4 Evo LMGT3 in the form and style Team WRT had it this season. Also, the standard setups will be changed a bit to make driving with the new tire model more realistic, and some changes in the thermal behavior of the tires to increase their performance, as well as making the dropping grip when the car goes over the limit a bit smoother. A welcome change will for sure be that the setup page now shows everything at a glance, and you can make broad changes on that one page while diving deeper in the details in the specific pages. And as they say, they are on track with their work on the ELMS series, which will come sometime later, maybe even this year.